Alright, welcome to the second video, recent video on activity-based costing. I do have some others, but I make these videos for each textbook resource I use. So in the first related video we covered activity-based costing theory. Why does it exist in the first place? And so hopefully we know what we're trying to accomplish here. We're trying to accomplish more accurate product pricing. And direct labor is not always the primary driver of overhead costs anymore. So I do encourage you to watch that video if you haven't seen it yet. This video we're going to look at a couple of calculation questions, and as is often the case in accounting courses, the question looks a lot more serious and intimidating than it actually is. So we're still in learning objective number 2, at least for the resources that I use. Yours are likely to differ. And we're on question number 10, so let's read through this. But before we do, let me give you some good advice. If you encounter a question that's kind of long like this, and how long is long? It's whatever you think is long. Always go down and read the actual question. And that's going to be very important here. So it says using the appropriate cost drivers, so there's going to be more than one cost driver, the total cost of the potential job is. So keep that in mind, and then I want to come back to that in a second. So let's start up here. It says Puggle Incorporated has 2 categories of overhead, maintenance and inspection. So not one, but 2 cost pools. So still pretty basic. Costs expected for these categories for the coming year are $400,000 and $200,000. That's another way of saying that we expect total overhead cost to be $600,000. The following data have been assembled for use in developing a bid for a proposed job. And we've got direct materials, direct labor, machine hours, number of inspections, and they've also given us direct labor hours. All right. The practical capacity of machine hours for all jobs during the year is 12,500. And practical capacity just simply means what we expect is going to happen given shutdowns and those types of things. We expect to have 12,500 machine hours for the year, and inspections we expect to have 400. Okay, and says these are the cost drivers for maintenance and inspection costs respectively. So we talked about in a previous video, we've got our cost pools here, and our activity, our cost driver is exactly what we want. We want to keep this simple. So for maintenance, we're going to be using machine hours, because the more machine hours we use, the more maintenance costs we are probably going to incur. And then if we've identified inspection costs, well, certainly the number of inspections are going to drive that cost up. So it says, again, using the appropriate cost drivers, the total cost of the potential job is. Well, because it says total cost right here for this job, what we want to recognize right away is that we are going to need to use both of these figures. Actually, let's just put a little plus or a check mark by them. Use a plus mark if you want to, because we want the total cost. We're not just being asked to to calculate overhead cost potentially incurred for this product. We're being asked for total cost. So it's going to be a minimum of 11,000 plus whatever overhead we're likely to incur. So how do we figure that out? It's very, very basic. We simply take our cost driver machine hours, and we've got 12,500 of those. And then I'm going to need to, give me 1 second while I resize this. We're going to plot that right here, at least that's what I'm going to do. And we're going to calculate a rate for maintenance costs. So we've got $400,000, and we expect that that will be driven by 12,500 machine hours. That's what we're saying. So every time we have a machine hour, in theory, it's going to lend itself to maintenance costs. So 400,000 divided by 12,500 gives us a rate of $32 per machine hour. Okay, and then we're going to do the exact same thing for inspections. This is going to be a much larger figure for the rate because we've got $200,000, but we're going to, for the year expected, being driven by 400 inspections. Okay, so let's go ahead and calculate our rate there. $200,000 in inspection cost driven by 400 inspections is a rate of $500 per inspection. Okay. Now all we have to do is drop down here and see, well, for this particular job, how many machine hours did we use? Well, we used 200. We're going to multiply that by our $32 rate. And then we had, thankfully, only 2 inspections since they're $500 a pop. Okay. So let's see what we've got. We've got 200 machine hours times a rate of $32 per machine hour is 6,400. And 2 times 500, I think we can agree, is 1,000. All right, so what I want to do now is that since I've got the 6,400 on my calculator already, I'm going to add the 1,000 to it for the inspections. And then I'm going to come up here and I'm going to grab the $3,000 direct cost for materials, and I'm going to take the $8,000 direct cost for labor, and that comes to 18,400. And if we look over here at our answer choices, we find that answer choice B is 18,400. One quick note, notice that we did not do anything with direct labor hours. If direct labor hours were one of our identified activity pools that drove costs upward, you know, we would have direct labor up here as part of our total overhead, something like that. But these questions will try to confuse you, and you're not usually going to see something like that. But they'll put this direct labor hours here. Quite honestly, the only purpose that serves would be if there was something in the question about it, you know, what is the average wage rate per hour? Okay, then you could take 8,000 and divide it by 400 and come up with $20, but that's not required information. So this is what we call a distractor here. Okay. All right, let's clear this calculator out and move our handout up slightly. Try to get it as straight as I can. And so let's see what we've got here. It says Sunflower Incorporated uses activity-based costing. The company produces 2 products, products A and B. Okay. Information relating to the 2 products are as follows. So let's see what we've got here. got all of our information for product A and for product B here. And again, kind of the long and drawn out bit of information here. So I'm going to go down and see what they actually want me to do. And what they want from me is they say setup cost assigned to B, product B, are. This is a very, very different question. In the previous question, they wanted to know the total cost, everything included, for a specific job. That's not what this question is asking for. What this question is asking for is on a product line basis, specifically product B, what is one component of overhead? This particular company has separated their overhead into 3 activity cost pools: materials handling, labor-related overhead, okay, and setups. You're only being asked for one of those. So we don't want to make this harder than it is. So we have our amount right here, $300,000 for setups, and we're going to use that just as we did in the previous question, different amount. And I'm going to divide that by something because I have to come up with a rate, an overhead rate per setup. What do I want to use? Well, probably right up here is a pretty good starting point. But be careful here. Even though you're being asked for setup costs for product B, you actually need to use all setups, total number of setups, because remember, this $300,000 is for products A and B, okay? So let's add those together, and I'm not going to total that. That's $12,000. I'll total it right here. How about that? So we've got $300,000 anticipated for setups for the year. What's driving that $300,000? 12,000 setups. So we just come over here. 300,000 divided by 12,000 equals $25, and this is our rate. Rate is $25 per setup. Okay, and then we are now, because we're only being asked about product B, we're gonna say, okay, our anticipated costs, or the portion of this 300,000 that product B is responsible for, is 7,000 setups times 25. Okay, so very, very simple. 7,000 setups times the $25 rate, and I believe that's going to give us 175,000. But you know what? Why take my word for it? We've got the 25 right there. Let's multiply it by 7,000. Bam, there it is. All right. I think that's good for this video. We'll come back and look at a different learning objective in the next video.